Howdy, all. Going to give a little update on how the game's going in this Conundrum series. New York has decided to attack. It's computer controlled. It wasn't unexpected, but it was just kind of an odd time for it to do it. Uh, as I mentioned in my previous video, that I was already starting to send up some units and establish an army just offshore, and I was going to invade and attack at some point. Uh, this does is kind of push the schedule. As I stated earlier, Cuba falls pretty quickly. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but if you've got the right setup, you can knock it out in a day, day and a half pretty easily, which is what I've done here. I have no losses except for this 12th Infantry Division. I had four uh, infantry units that are level 4 that were at uh, either full health or half health. But anyway, they had a lot more hit points. Now, out of 140, they've only got 29.8, so 30. They've got 30 hit points out of 140. But they're still alive. So what I'm doing is sending them down to one of my core territories and just let them heal up a little bit. I don't use infantry a lot. I use them as scouts uh, in strictly a support unit, but I just don't do much with them. Those are still held over from the original units you start with. So uh, anyway, but my system of using battleships coming down each coast and then armored scout cars has worked really well. You can see there's a lot of battles that went on here. Uh, the majority of the Cuban ground units were concentrated here at the east end, which makes sense because there's three cities down here, and so uh, there were three separate groupings that had artillery in them. So it had two armored car divisions that had a supporting artillery unit with it. And then there was a single by itself artillery unit here in Puerto Padre. And so took care of them pretty quickly because battleships have uh, a wider area that they can shoot from. So they have longer range. They have a longer range that they can shoot from. And so the smaller range of the artillery, although it looks like it ate down some of the hit points off of this infantry division, other than that, had no effect on any other unit. So it didn't take them long to whittle down all those units, just a few hours, and the only thing left now is this single armored car, and he's got 7.4 out of 20. So my long gun over here killed the single infantry unit that was chasing it down. He's going to come over and capture. But with New York attacking uh, this neutral province right here, I was going to leave it alone because New York owned it. But now they're an enemy, so now it's fair game. So I've already got a ground unit here. I'm going to go ahead and take it over. Uh, the Cuba has a battleship and a cruiser here. I sent a single submarine over to attack, uh, and it knocked down the hit points to 61.1 out of 85. So I didn't care about the submarine. It only takes 3 hours to make a new one, so it's not a big loss. Uh, Not really something I need at this stage. It's not really hurting anything. I use submarines and destroyers initially to control certain key points like the Panama Canal. As you can see, I've got a destroyer here. I've got 4 submarines that are directly under a Northern California cruiser. I don't think he knows they're there. So if he attacks, that cruiser will be immediately sunk just by the submarines alone. So once I manufacture enough battleships and can start going to work, and I have 6 or 7 right now, maybe even 8 total in the game. Yeah, I don't really need the destroyers and the subs other than to maybe a destroyer here and there just to be able to discover enemy subs, but just not really worried about the Navy aspect of that. Now that I've established such a good control of South America and Central America, and I'm working my way up through Mexico, I don't even need to really do anything over the water anymore. At this point, it's just a convenience, something that speeds up the game a little bit for me. But anyway, that's the update. New York is attacked, so I've got my 7-unit artillery is coming over here to Nunavut's capital. It is controlled by Minnesota, as well as this other large in area but low in resource production. I'm not going to pick a fight with Minnesota right now. It's just not necessary. They don't really they don't pose a current threat to me at all. Minnesota and Illinois are in a coalition. They can either go north, which it looks like he may do, or he can continue on south. But at some point, he's going to have to butt heads with Oregon and North California, which are in a separate coalition. So the coalition between Cuba, New York, Quebec, and whatever the other country, West Mexico or something, is, although it's still alive, they are all computer controlled now. So I'm not really worried about them. These other 2 coalitions are still viable. Alaska, again, is not, it broke off from Oregon and North Carolina and has done nothing. So, not worried about Alaska. I am still going to attack Oregon. You can see I've got many units traveling up. The transport ships are moving up, and I'll stage them, here in the Pacific. And then once I get enough of them, I'll pick a point to disembark in Oregon and take them on. But again, I'm just going after Oregon's economy, and that's really going to slow them down. If we go to the point system, and you can see I'm ahead of everyone in points as a soloist, even though they have more cities that they've captured. 490, 480, and I've got 340. So, they are still a force to be reckoned with, but basically by attacking Oregon, I'm going to stunt that entire coalition, because the only 2 left that are controlled by humans are North Carolina and Oregon. So either North Carolina comes up to help, which will weaken him and any further progress he's trying to achieve, or he continues on and lets Oregon fight its own battle, which will force Oregon to shift all of its resources back west to counter me and try to retake any territories I've gained. In the meantime, I'm still advancing with a separate army in Mexico, and then I'll have one up in the New York area up here. So I'll be advancing on 2 fronts, and whatever happens in Oregon won't bother me anyway, whether I destroy Oregon or he destroys my invading army, it doesn't matter. I've kept him busy and he's not expanding. So as long as he's not taking over new territory, or I've severely affected that, slowed down his economy, et cetera, et cetera, I virtually will eliminate him as a threat and the coalition. North California, the only place he can go is west and south. So at some point, we're going to butt heads here. So like I say, he either helps Oregon out or that same army will shift south and get to him. And then I'll have the other one coming up from the south and, pincer movement, basically. I'll envelop him at some point, affect his economy as I take over territory. And since I will have taken care of Oregon for the most part, he will not be able to recreate new units and come after me with them because I've killed his economy. Anyway, that's just part of the strategy. So that's the update. My plans right now are just to finish off the islands, including Dominican Republic. They're neutral to me right now, but they've only got 4 or 5 territories left, so I'm gonna go ahead and just take it over, so I don't have to deal with it anymore. And then I will shift my battleships over to west, Gulf of Mexico, and I will hunt down the 2 or 3 ship fleet. There's at least 2 battleships. I'll hunt it down and kill it. And as you can see, my railroad guns are just methodically working up here in Mexico. So let me send scout car to Mexico City. And I'll send, just took over Acapulco a little bit ago, so we'll take over Chilpancingo. And in a couple of hours, I will have victory over, so 1, 2, 3 cities there, as well as various other territories. So you go on the Cuba side. I've already got 3, and I'll have the other 2 here in less than 2 hours. I'll have them all taken care of. So actually, let me split this scout car up and have it move over and take over this one too. Anyway, that's the update. So now you know what I'm going to do and how I've reacted to what's happened. So any questions or comments, go ahead and let me know down below. And thanks for watching. Hope you learned something.